This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so first two units is more about what is intervention, what exactly is the high level classification of intervention. That is what we went through. Okay, so now what we are actually doing, we are actually going into the next level of details as far as these interventions are concerned. Right, so these two units, following two units, which is unit 3, unit 4, talks about what is the topology of intervention, what are the various types of interventions, right? So those kind of details. Okay, so to start with, right, it starts with the basic topology of intervention. So there is actually a theory called as Consul cube theory, which is not important from the exam point of view. It was never asked what is the topology of I mean about these dimensions of cube, but so he has, this cube has got three dimensions. Okay, so this is like, this is depicting all the consultation situations, basically all the consultant related activities. Okay, so from the consultant point of view, the one who is actually doing this particular intervention or suggesting this particular intervention, right? The first dimension is what consultant does. Okay, the second dimension is what exactly are the issues that he is actually working on. Third is what is the target group. These are three dimensions that a consultancy situation would have. One, what is that consultant is doing? Two, what are the problems he is going to solve, or rather, what is the issue that he is concentrating on? Third, what is the target? Who is the target audience? Is it an individual or a group or intergroup or organization? Right. So these are the three dimensions of consult cube. This question is never asked, but I thought I'll just give a very high level brief in case if it is asked. Okay. So now, so I'm not going to spend much time on it on each dimension in detail, but basically these are the three dimensions. So now going into the classification of OD interventions. Okay. So there are various ways to classify it. Okay, so this classification is based on the target groups. Okay, so what it means is, so there are three types of interventions which are broad category of interventions which is possible. Okay, so what are these particular categories? First, the intervention which is based on information based intervention. Okay, so what it means, what is intervention based intervention, right? So anything which is to something that you are actually trying to meddle with the information that is there. For example, there is an intervention you are actually doing to define a vision. Okay, so that is, you are scripting an information, right? Similarly, you are trying to actually document some procedure. You found that there is some procedure which is having no documentation, people are struggling. So there is an intervention which you actually started to make sure that you document those particular procedures. So that is an intervention that document. So this is again information based intervention. Similarly, you want to tell people that what on some policies you want to make people aware of. Let's say you have a policy of health coverage and people are not aware, they don't know how to use it. So you might want to actually create a, I mean, create some kind of an information intervention where you are going to advertise these particular policies and all those stuff, right? So all these three are information based intervention. So the next one is consequence based intervention. Okay, so here what we are actually saying, these interventions are something where you are meddling with the consequences of the things. For example, you thought that the reward structure for doing certain activity is not great. Okay, so that is a intervention which is trying to actually meddle with the rewards. right? So this is like you are meddling with the consequence of doing a particular activity. Similarly, interventions where you are trying to actually measure how much you actually, how a particular thing is happening, right? What is the outcome of particular thing? So measuring related interventions is also consequence based, right? And even enforcing certain things. There is a policy, you are making sure that it is enforced. So that is also a consequence based. So now there is third category which is design based. Okay, so here you are actually designing certain things, right? For example, you are trying to actually design how to organize certain thing. So intervention that organize, right? Basically, you want to actually see how you can restructure a particular organization, how to organize your teams. So all these things are interventions that organize, right? Interventions that standardize, you want to standardize certain things. So you want to think what exactly should be your standard. I mean, you're standardizing the way, let's say, claims needs to be made. You're defining a policy, you're standardizing it. Okay, yeah, people will have to actually tell their claims within 30 days, etc., etc. That is also you're designing a policy, right? You're standardizing things. So so that is also a, and also you're designing how workspace should be. Interventions that design safety of the workspace, etc., etc. You're trying to design, right? And you are trying to develop something new. Okay, so interventions that develop, maybe development could be a skill development, maybe development could be a particular product or whatever it is, right? So these are all design based interventions. Okay, so even counseling and the alignment, if you're trying to align your programs to the purpose and practice or vision or whatever it is, all these interventions are design based interventions. Okay, so broadly three categories: information based intervention, consequence based intervention, design based intervention. Okay, so now we are trying to go, so we finished the categories or classification of it. Now we are going into the interventions themselves. Okay, this is, you can actually so this is based on the people you are targeting. You can imagine in this way. So this is another kind of classification, right? First is, it is based on the target activity. The second now we are actually going into is, we are talking about the stakeholders that it is trying to handle. Interpersonal intervention. So let's say if there is an interpersonal issue that you are targeting, it is an interpersonal intervention. If you are targeting a team or a group, then it is a group interventions, right? If you are trying to target intergroups, okay, then it is an intergroup intervention. Okay, so and if you are targeting a rotating membership intervention, so basically here you are actually talking about something which is not a permanent members, it is actually assumed responsibilities which are like I mean so it is still an intergroup. Okay, but here we are talking about groups which they are rivals to each other. Basically they are not normal groups. Okay, they don't gel well because they do things which are like competitive things. And if you want to make them gel together, or rather decrease the negative effects of those particular things, you actually do rotating membership interventions. Comprehensive interventions, this could be organization wide interventions that we are talking about. So based on the target group, these are the 5 intervention classifications. So above is also a classification, this is also a classification. The above classification is based on the issue type that you are trying to do, and below classification is based on the target audience, or whom you are actually doing it. If you remember in the previous unit as well, there are two, right? Organizational issues, organization levels. So first is based on the issues, the second is based on the levels. Okay, so now what are the interventions that are going to be there in total organization? Okay, so these, now we are going into interventions themselves. We finished classification. We finished classification both on the issue type, and also on the target group. Now we are going into interventions themselves, right? Socio-technical structure. This I think we read even during the initial units, where we are talking about job design. You are trying to design your job in such a way that it suits people's need. So you are bringing together social aspects and technical aspects, and you are designing your jobs to be more effective, both to the organization and to the people. Okay. So these kind of interventions is socio-technical system, right? So basically, here you are actually aligning your structure, you are designing your jobs. Okay. So now you are going into the next one, which is structural change intervention. Here, what you are actually aligning, you are aligning the structure of the organization. Okay. So any structural change. So this is little bit in overlap with the above socio-technical intervention, so socio technical systems. Okay, but there the emphasis is on the job design, what somebody is going to do, how they are going to do, that is the emphasis of that. Okay, so in this particular thing, how units are going to be there, how organization would be divided into various pieces, how it is departmentalized, that would be the focus of this. So this is also again based on the effectiveness, and to some extent job designs would actually create these kind of a structure. It would also be the market situation which will actually tell how to organize your organization. Okay, but it is different from socio-technical system which is on the top. So next is parallel learning structure. We read in fact as one big unit, right? This is nothing but competency centers, where they have an independent group of people accumulate together, and they actually have their own their own agenda in terms of expertise area, which they actually learn together, and they are actually solving certain things like, or they are beyond the organization structure. So they are independent as such from that angle, right? So next is MBO. Okay, so MBO is nothing but it is like you are actually setting, it is the full form is management by objectives. That is what is MBO, right? What it means, the principle of this MBO is nothing but you are giving clarity for your employees on what they are supposed to do. So you are driving your employees based on goal settings. You give clarity of the goal, you introduce a concept called as a smart goal, like very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. This is called as a smart goal, right? So everything that you drive as a management is using this particular smart goal concept. Okay, so basically how it happens, you define the goal, let employees also you take employees considerations while you are actually defining the goal. You continuously monitor that, right, and do a performance appraisal, provide feedback. Okay, and also reward them in case if they have met their particular goals, and again redefine the goals based on the newer aspects, right? So that is what this particular MBO is. Okay, so the next one is cultural analysis. Name itself suggests what exactly culture analysis is, right? So basically, you are analyzing the culture of an organization, right? So basically, there are various ways where you could actually measure a particular cultural phenomena. So depending on what is the aspect of the culture, you would actually go with these particular ways. Okay. So there are 4 themes as far as the cultural analysis is concerned. Okay. Theme 1 is adaptation and change. So here what you are analyzing, you are analyzing the aspect of how adaptation would happen for a particular change. Whether my organization would receive this change in a right way, whether they will be able to adapt. Second, okay, used to survive. So basically, whether this culture survives in this environment or not. Okay, so So basically, this is what is just talking about whether it is going to continue, right? Adoption is over now, whether it is going to continue. Okay, holism or specificity. Okay, this is this is this is like you are actually getting a coherent picture, basically all the observations into one single thing, and trying to predict how exactly whether this particular cultural aspect is coherent or not. You have multiple small behaviors, you're actually trying to put it in one place and trying to see whether there is a synchronous, or rather this culture is coherent or not. So that is what is holism or specificity, right? So expressions. So what is the everyday culture? How the performance and expressions of the people are from the everyday culture point of view. Okay. So that is exactly are those are the four different dimensions, or rather four different themes that cultural analysis does have. Okay. And next goes to confrontation meetings. What is confrontation meeting? Confrontation, I think everyone of us know, right? You have a problem. So now people are opposing that particular problem. So you need to actually go and confront. Okay, so especially this would actually come when organizations are experiencing stress, and when management needs to organize resources for immediate problem solving. Okay, so that is what is the confrontation meetings. Okay, so now visioning. What is visioning? You are helping employees to visualize the goal, or rather the big picture. So this is a intervention using which you are going to see how you are going to actually generate that a vision and a common goal for the employees to move towards it. Strategic planning. So this is again you are defining the strategy. The visioning is only talking about and making sure employees understand that particular high vision. The strategic planning is you are forming the basic strategy for your organization. Okay. So next is real-time strategic change. This is like you are not talking about the future strategy. It is you are talking about the current one. So while you are actually doing it, is there any modifications that I need to do? So it is like simultaneously planning and implementing things. Okay, uh, so this generally happens in a, like you call people, they will all actually attend the workshop or whatever it is, and they actually change the plan. They would replan or do some things in parallel. Basically, planning and implementation happens together in case of real-time strategic change. Okay, so that is about the real-time strategic change. Now goes into grid OD 456. So looks like there is actually a grid OD which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 phases that are there in grid OD. So grid OD is based on the concept called as management grid, which we have read in, if you remember, in OB. OB, there is a leadership approach that we read, which is called as a management grid, if you remember, right? You have a people orientedness, which is on the y-axis. On the x-axis, you have the goal orientedness, and 0 means he is a zero leader, waste leader. Okay, 9 means he is the perfect leader. If somebody is towards more task, he is achievement oriented leader. If somebody is on the people task, he is like a country club. You can enjoy with him. You don't have to do a job, right? He is only people. So that is what we have read in the management grid. So based on the same concept, right, there is some grid OD phases which were actually defined, and there are actually 6 phases which were defined. Okay, so where grid OD 4 focuses on shift to corporate strategies. Okay, so grid OD 4 is on the strategic point of view. Okay, grid OD 5 is on implementing the strategy. So OD 4 talks about planning the strategy. OD 5 talks about implementing the strategy. OD6 talks about measuring and evaluating the strategy. Okay, so these are the interventions which are defined based on this particular grid based approach. Okay, so these are 4, 5, 6. 1, 4 is planning, 5 is implementing the strategic model, 6 is analyzing, or rather getting the feedback and analyzing the outcomes of it. Interdependency exercise. So here we are talking about resolving interdependencies between two units, two groups, or two teams. Okay, so the typically how it happens, you are going to actually uh, call few members from each group, and then you will bring them together, interview them. You would actually have a rapid way of exchanging information between these particular groups. Okay, so survey feedback. So I think this is a very well known thing. In fact, we read, I think half of the chapter is on the survey feedback. If I remember, it is in block 1, unit 4 does have the survey feedback. Okay, so this is nothing but you are collecting the feedback in various ways, whether it could be interviews, whether it could be like questionnaire that you circulate, or some kind of focus discussions, etc., etc., where you actually collect feedback from teams, leaders, managers, whatever, whoever is the focused audience. Okay, now next comes to the appreciative inquiry. Okay, in appreciative inquiry, this is also something that we talked about in OB. If you remember, there is a definition of appreciative inquiry. What is appreciative inquiry? When we are talking about strength of an organization, you are trying to improvise the strength. Here, this is very positive approach where you are trying to actually query from people what went well, what is our strength, right? That is what is the appreciative inquiry. Okay, so it relies on interviewing the people again. Okay, and then you actually ask people that what went well, and based on that you would actually understand what is the aspect which you need to retain and improvise within your organization as far as the strength is concerned, right? so so this is like a positive one. So it is not about what did not go well, it is rather what went well. So this typically does have 4 phases, 4 process stage rather, and it starts with discovery, where you are actually discovering what exactly went well for you. Okay, dream, where you are envisaging how it would work, how you would make this strength work well in future. You have strength, this is what is your strength. Now how you are going to make this particular strength work well for the future. Okay, so you are trying to actually shape up this strength into something that you could potentially do well even in future, right? So third one is designing. So now you are planning and prioritizing processes so that you are shaping your current strength into something that is going to enhance your future. Destiny. Okay. So the implementation of proposed design. So basically, this is where you are actually trying to execute the entire design, whatever that is designed. Okay. So these are the 4 processes, or rather a cycle of an appreciative inquiry. Okay. So, so this is a positive process, as I said, mainly talking about strength. Okay, it's somebody, some Srivastava said that organization is a miracle to be embraced rather than problem to be solved. Just to actually tell that appreciative inquiry is something very, very critical as far as the organization is concerned. So it's not just about problems, it is also about embracing your strength. For example, to give you an example, WhatsApp is trying to get into the payment systems, right? Because now it knows its strength is about people are all already using the platform, how they can utilize whatever the people who are utilizing the platform into some other business opportunity for them, right? So they are transforming their strength into something that they could potentially do something well in the future, right? So something like that. Search conferences. Okay, so this is like there is a problem that is going to be solved. So you are going to put a offsite and discuss within that particular group where there would be typically 2 to 3 days of workshop, where all of the participants, committee, whoever is involved, they will all get together, focus on what happened in the past, what is going to be in present, and what is the future factors, determine what are the action steps. Typically, there would be a very broad agenda, not very particular agenda, right? For example, there could be like offside could be simple as like, okay, yeah, let's actually see what went well for our team, what we should actually do. Right? It could be a unit which conducts this particular offside and just have a very broad agenda items and discuss it. Okay. So now the last intervention, which is quality of work life. This particular name itself is very, very self-evident. All the interventions which are trying to improvise the quality of work life for an employee falls into this particular thing. Okay, so it could be like, I mean, number of leaves, or it could be like health aspects, it could be like work safety. So various things, all those aspects would come into this quality of work life program. So now we are going into the next section on total quality management. Okay, this is also something that we learned a lot even in OB and in bits and pieces in OD as well. Okay, so this is mainly quality focused, and this is something which is talking about continuous quality improvement. Okay, so there are multiple techniques that you actually do. Quality circles, which we read in and out lot of times, is one of those particular techniques which comes under total quality management. And statistical processes, right? Six Sigma, whatnot. There is actually a number of quality practices, right? Which talks about organization should actually continuously improve. There should not be even one defect in 100 odd products, something like that, right? So those particular Six Sigma and all those things would come under this quality management. So it also concentrates about changing the culture of the organization to be quality focused. So it concentrates even on people aspect, on how to make people customer centric, product centric, improve the quality on day to day basis, right? How you are going to measure this quality on the continuous basis to just check whether you are continuously improving or not. So it does have a cultural aspect as well as far as TQM is concerned, right? So, so, certain quality consultants might be there who are actually monitoring this entire TQM, and some of them might be physically be existing, which is like uh, physically they would be with the customers. They would pay attention in terms of what is the customer perception. They will manage the quality for a particular group and all those stuff. And there would also be the policies at a large scale at the organization level. So both would be there as far as TQM is concerned. Okay, so that sums up the entire unit 3 for OD interventions. So just to give a very high level glimpse again, just replay what we learned about classifications of OD. Classifications of OD has got two types of classifications. One type is based on the issues. The other type is based on the target organization levels. Okay, the way the target issues classification, there are three: information based, consequence based, design based, right? In case of target groups, interpersonal, group, intergroup, rotating membership, and comprehensive. Okay, and then we went into various types of intervention, various interventions, not types of interventions. So the classification is done. Now we went into interventions itself, and we talked about total quality management. That ends this unit. Okay. So now we are going into the next unit now, which is unit 4, which is going to be the last unit as far as this OD is concerned. Okay, so this talks about human process interventions. Okay, so all the interventions which are related to the human processes is what this particular unit covers. right? It starts with characteristics of OD program, which I'm not going to explain because this characteristics of OD program is something that we already went through when we are talking about unit 1 and unit 2. Okay, so but still on a very high level, right? It ODs, what is OD program? It stresses at the collaborative management. It encompasses the entire organization, right? It emphasizes on team groups, small groups, etc., etc., right? It is actually a very broader vehicle which is trying to actually see entire system together. So these are all some of the characteristics. Actually, there are details characteristics which are covered better in the other units. So this is like, uh, I mean, repetition and very smaller uh, thing as far as the OD program is concerned here. Okay. So next is individuals and OD program. So there are actually multiple types of programs which are there as far as the entire human processes are concerned. Okay, so we are going to actually talk about some of those particular programs in detail. The first is T group. Okay, so ideally speaking, it should also be a separate heading. So I don't know why T group is given under the individuals and OD program, but this is also one type of intervention which is concentrating on human process. So I briefly told about this T group. T group is nothing but it is like a sensitivity training where you are going to bring some 15 odd strangers together, make them sit and trying to actually analyze their social dynamics, make them talk together and also understand their own behavior and the other behavior and learn how do group dynamics really work. This is one type of sensitivity training. Sensitivity training is a broader term where what you are actually bringing under sensitivity training is sensitive training is nothing but you are sensitizing people on certain aspects, right? One of the example is it could be even that in certain regions like US, when you are actually when you are going to take an interview, there are certain things that you need to be sensitive about. You are not supposed to ask certain questions. For example, you are not supposed to ask that why there is a gap in your resume. That is actually a wrong question. You can't, they can actually, the person who is undergoing the interview can sue you if you ask that question. Because in their culture, it is not allowed. That question is not really, allowed. Right. So you need to be sensitive about their culture before even you take an interview, right? So before you taking an interview, you will have to undergo certain training on how to take an interview in US, and then only take. So it is a kind of sensitivity training, right? Sensitizing yourself, you on a certain cultural aspects. T group is specially talking about one of those sensitivity training where you are making people realize the group dynamics by getting them together, right? So this is one of such human process intervention. Okay, so like that there are multiple human process interventions which are there, which we are actually going to go through some in the rest of the chapter, right? So some of the programs are like, project consultation, third party peacemaking, role negotiation. Anyway, we'll go, those will actually come as separate sections down. So I'm not really calling out their names here. Okay, so next there is a definition called as dyads and triads. Okay, so I just included them because there could be a question which says that what is dyad and triad? Dyad is nothing but you are actually two individuals or units regarded as a pair is called as dyad. If you are grouping three units or three individuals, you call it as triads. Okay, some interventions where you might actually include these dyads and triads depending on the situation. Okay, so this is not a type of intervention; it is just a definition to remember. So dyad is two individuals, two units, or two teams. Triads is three individuals or three units or three groups, right? So that is what it is. So now we are reading through teams and groups. Okay, so because this is human process intervention, the teams, there are actually a lot of interventions which are in and around teams. Okay, so how you can actually build an effective team kind of a thing. So, so before we going into teams, there is a brief explanation on what are the characteristics of well-functioning teams. Okay, so I mean there was never a question on this because this particular definition is little misfit as far as the entire unit is concerned. But anyway, we'll go through those particular characteristics. So what a well-functioning team will be relaxed. They will not have any problem or a comfort related issue. They will talk well. They will talk well between themselves. They will listen to the other team members. They will have relevant discussions. They will perform well. They will take decisions based on the consensus. Everybody is in one line, right? There would not be any conflicts. In case if there are any conflicts, they will be able to resolve those particular conflict by following proper conflict resolution techniques, right? And they are self-managed. They can actually have their own ways of managing their own things, right? And they know in clear what exactly they are supposed to do as a team. This is all characteristics of a well-functioning team, right? So these characteristics are very self-evident. I think in case if there is any question that comes, but there was never a question from this particular unit on well-functioning teams. Okay, because this is an irrelevant section as far as the entire thing is concerned. Okay, so now again going back into the teams and groups interventions. So now we are going into the crux of it, which is interventions related to teams and groups. First, team building. Okay, so team building could be of various ways. There could be a general team which is actually trying to address how exactly communication should happen, etc., etc. Some kind of relationships or communication patterns or whatever it is. And there could be a task directedness where you are. So what is task directedness? Task directedness is nothing but you are trying to actually take team towards the task. You are trying to actually help them to understand as a team what they are actually supposed to do, right? And the other way of looking at is process direction, right? So it is like how the processes should work within the team. So the process could be like a reporting mechanism, it could be team meetings, or it could be anything. Okay, and how the processes needs to actually work as a team. So this is like a task directed team building activities, process directed team building activities. Okay. So now we are going into Gestalt OD. Okay. So somehow this Gestalt OD reminded me philosophy rather than psychology. Okay, because it is talking about creating that self-awareness where people's maturity level is being increased so that they actually behave in an authentic way. Right? Typically, this is used in enlightening the leaders, right? So because now they have power, they need to actually have that self-awareness so that they can control their behavior when it comes to dealing with subordinates or whatever it is, right? This is like you are creating values within a particular human, self-awareness, right? And maturity, authenticity, okay, and regulating their own behavior. So it is like you are talking about making a Buddha kind of a enlightenment for a particular person, whoever we are taking to this particular intervention. Okay. So once that is actually comes, right, automatically there are a lot of positive things that would happen, right? Whether it is now as a leader, you would have more maturity on how to deal with your subordinate. You will have more maturity on in terms of what is right, what is wrong, all those things. Okay. So somehow this reminded me of philosophical aspect rather than anything else. So I don't know practically how this would actually work as an intervention, but anyway. Okay, I hope getting enlightenment is so easy. But anyway, so going into the next intervention, grid OD phase 2. Remember, whatever the grid OD that I talked about, 4, 5, 6 phases, this is phase 2. I don't know why grid OD phases are introduced in phases, right? So basically, they could have got all the 6 phases of grid OD in one place, but 4, 5, 6 phases were in the other unit. Now we are talking about grid OD phase 2, because grid OD phase 2 is mainly concentrating on team culture aspect and teamwork aspect, right? And problem solving in terms of the teams, planning the skills of the teams and all those stuff. Okay, so this is grid OD phase 2. Interdependency exercise. So it is generally for when you are talking about the interdependency issue. So you have dependencies. So typically it happens across departments, across units. How exactly these can actually cooperate with each other. Okay, so now again, appreciative inquiry. So in the last unit, we talked about appreciative inquiry from the point of view of organization. Here we are talking about appreciative inquiry in terms of team, but the concept is same. Here discussing about the strength and how that strength can be leveraged to in the future. The concept is ditto same, but here it is more applicable to the small group or a team. Okay, that is the only difference. Concept is based on the strength discovery. Next is responsibility charting. Okay, so this is nothing but you can determine by the name. You are putting a chart of responsibilities. So basically, you are saying that, boss, these are the roles. Role 1, manager, this is what he is supposed to do. Role 2, supervisor, this is what he is supposed to do. Role 3, so and so XYZ accountant, this is what he is supposed to do. So you are actually creating a grid or a chart where you are putting roles and their responsibilities like a chart. Okay. On left hand side of the thing, you will have actors, who are the people. Okay. And right hand side, you will have what their particular class of actions are. Okay, so that is what it is all about. Okay, now process consultation. Okay, this we talked about in one particular unit. You are bringing up a consultant who is going to analyze your processes and he is going to suggest what needs to happen. Okay, so this is the type of intervention. Role negotiation. Okay, so here, I mean, as the name suggests, you are trying to actually negotiate a role. So why you need to negotiate a role? You are actually trying to discuss and give certain responsibilities to a particular group or a person or whatever it is. First step that is involved is you negotiate the contract. What are the basic rules of the contract? So how negotiation typically happen? It starts with the contract setting, okay, and then it talks about the issue, whatever the person does have, okay, and it talks about influence period, till when he is going to actually deal with that particular issue, or till when he's going to work on that particular job, whatever that is assigned. Okay, so so this is like influence state or negotiation period. Okay, so now this is role negotiation. The next one is role analysis technique. This is about giving a clarity for people that what that role is supposed to do. Okay, this is like redefining the perception of an employee about the role. That is what is the role analysis technique. Okay. Next comes the startup or team building activity. Okay, so there are four main areas as far as the startup and team building activity is concerned. One is the diagnosis, task accomplishments, relationships, that is team relationships, and the team organization process. Okay, so this is nothing but a typical team building exercise that actually concentrates on these four aspects. Okay, diagnosis, task accomplishment, team relationships, and team and organization process. Okay. Okay, so that takes us to the next thing. Okay. So next thing is mainly concentrate on education. What it is, education is, these interventions mainly concentrating on improving the skill of an employee. Okay, to be very simple. So it is like either you are improving their decision making skills, whether you are improving their problem solving skills, or way they plan, way they set their goals. Everything and anything which is related to productivity or a skill is what is in this particular section. The first section that we went through is on the team. Now we are going through the interventions which are focused on the education aspect, which is skills basically. Okay. First is team MBO. We already went through what is MBO. MBO is management by objectives. Okay. So now take this particular same, the concept is same. Here as well, you are trying to actually put the goals, give clarity of the goals, right? And then you take through that particular process of, defining the goal and then making employees work on those particular goals, helping them to actually work on those particular goals, then evaluate those goals, do performance, appreciation of it, okay, reward them, etc., etc., right? So it is the same ditto aspect, but when it comes to team, okay, so you are talking about objectives of a team, not an individual. Okay, there is another name for this, which is called as management by group objectives. Okay, so instead of MBO, you can call it as MBGO, but the concept is same. Okay, directing people what to do based on the goals, but you are putting goals for a particular team now rather than an individual. Okay, appreciations and concern exercise. So what it means, basically you are trying to tell people what they are doing right, what they are doing wrong. So any exercise that which is making them realize what they are doing right, what they are doing wrong, is what appreciations and concerns exercise. Okay, so now next is socio-technical systems. This also we talked about in multiple places. Okay, socio-technical systems is generally around the job design, where it is focused on designing the jobs in the right way, suiting the requirement of the people and also the organization, bringing these together in the right, in the right way, so that both organization and individuals flourish together. That is what is socio-technical systems. Visioning. Okay, so this is also something that we already talked about, making people understand the overall vision. So we are helping people to envisage things. They will be able to see what is the future. You are improvising their visualization of the future, right? That is what is the visioning here. Quality of work. This is also something we went through, all the programs which are going to be improving the quality of work of an employee or a team. Quality circles. This we talked about quality circles enough. Okay, so this is like, a group of people coming together trying to dictate how quality should happen. This started in Japan, and this is voluntary group and all those stuff. Force field analysis. Okay, if you remember, this is also something that we talked in Levin's theory. Okay, so not sure whether you remember or not. This came in conflict resolution, where what Kurt Levin told is, there are actually field where you have set of people who are resisting the change. There are set of people who are, taking the change in the right way, right? So you need to recognize this force, whichever is disturbing the equilibrium of the state, this change, whoever is opposing, recognize that and see how to resolve this particular, situation. So you recognize that, oh yeah, this is the group who is going to resist. So why they resist? So let me actually first talk to them before even taking the change together. Something like that. You are strategizing so that you reduce the force, right? That is what is the force field analysis. Okay, so this force field analysis is nothing but you are understanding the factors and forces which are going to operate, who is going to help you, who is going to oppose you, and those kind of things. Okay, and implement or plan things based on these forces and implement the change. Okay, so this living theory came in resolution of in resisting the change related unit. We talked about that particular thing there. Okay, so this is same as that self-managed teams. I think self-managed teams is self-explanatory. So they don't really require anybody else to move them. They move together in the right direction by themselves. Only management is providing an external support or an external direction, but otherwise they are very self-sufficient. Okay, so general model of self-managing team, whatever the team task design, interventions, organization support systems, all go through the team functioning, and the team actually go through the performance, and members are satisfied in doing whatever that they are actually is supposed to do. So every organization want every team to be self-managed. Intergroup relationships. So these are some of the interventions which are addressing the intergroup relationship aspects. Okay, first is partnering. Okay, so what is partnering? You are actually creating the partnership. You are actually going and meeting somebody and say that, boss, can you partner with me? I'll do this, you do this. Let's go together as partners and solve certain problem and get money together, right? So this is like typical partnership. Okay, the third party peacemaking at group level. There is some jagada, you are bringing some other person into picture, and he is saying that, okay, boss, come on, hold on, you are right on these aspects, you are right on these aspects, let's actually hit the middle ground in this way. Third party is the one who is solving it for you. Okay, so they are just facilitating the dialogue, they are understanding the both perspectives, and they are actually giving the verdict. So now comes grid OD phase 3. Grid OD phase 3 talks about intergroup related aspects, hence phase 3 is here. Okay, so now survey feedback. Survey feedback is another mechanism to solve with intergroup related parts. Survey feedback, I am not going to explain it again. It is the same intervention applied at an intergroup level. Okay, so now we are going into coaching related aspects. Okay, so this is altogether an entire different thing. So this is definitely a kind of an intervention, right? An intervention which is required to shape up or rather bring up certain individuals into the right mindset, right? You are actually trying to give a direction by coaching them. So it could be done for a group, it could be done for an individual, it could be done for the leadership. So there are various types of coaching, right? The so one way is actually the so the target groups could vary. So based on whatever the type of coaching, whatever that you are actually trying to do. Okay, in an organization, coaching refers to a method of personal development or human resource development. So this is more from the personal well-being of an individual. That is what an individual or a group or whatever it is, right? So this is very, very personalized to whoever you are actually targeting, right? It is an excellent way to attain certain work behavior, improve people, leadership, employees accountability, and all those aspects. Okay, so I'll put these particular points here. So currently those points are missing for both coaching and mentoring. I'll bring up those particular points, but I'm spelling out the important points that you need to actually remember. It is going to be for the personal development, it could be for various what do you say for various individuals, whether it is employee or leadership or whatever it is. It could actually improve people from various dimensions, the way leader acts, or rather the accountability aspects, or a team aspect, or a sales aspect, or whatever it is. So it could be various other various things that they could actually you can think of, right? First, there are various types of coaching. Now we are going into types of coaching. Okay. First is executive coaching. Okay. So executive coaching is nothing but you are actually coaching an executive or a leader. So generally it is a one-to-one interaction that you do to your leader. Okay. So and then coach that particular person, right? There are various aspects, as I said. It could be his leadership style, it could be the way that he takes the bottom line on certain things, where he communicate, all those things could actually come into picture. Okay, so in this, there are various subtypes, like I said, based on what you are actually trying to coach. One subtype is global executive coaching. What you are doing is global executive coaching. You are sensitizing them on the cultural aspect. The underlying here is global executive. So you are sensitizing them on the cultural aspect. Okay. The other type which is more prevalent is personal coaching. Okay. So it is like aligning their goals, objectives, interests, reflect on the way they are behaving, where they are responding, and all those stuff. Okay. It is like showing their face and say that, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is how you should be, or whatever it is. You help them discover from the personal point of view. Okay. So now we are actually, further, I mean, you can say that even counseling is a kind of, I mean, it is not a coaching, obviously it is, but you can probably say that it is actually a next level of this particular personal coaching into a different level, right? Especially when it comes to behavior analysis, counseling is the word that is predominantly used rather than coaching, where you are trying to deal with behavioral aspect, right? Where you are trying to do an applied behavior analysis or experimental analysis and those kind of things. Even for that matter, mental health related aspects, where you're trying to deal with the mental related aspects. So you can say that coaching is like a different form of, I mean, counseling is a different form of coaching, which is mainly targeting the behavioral aspects. Okay. So obviously we know I mean, there are actually certified coaches, certified counselors, etc., etc. So it is like a professional practice, the entire coaching related aspect. So it is not random. It is not like any other guy who is coming and giving gyan. So it requires a certification, a methodology, and all those things are there as far as coaching and counseling are concerned. So now we are going into training. Okay. So what is training? You are trying to actually improvise certain skills, whatever that they are actually required. You are training an employee on Java, or you are training an employee on Python. You're training an employee on how to talk, right? You're training an employee on how to eat. So all these things would actually come on the training part. Okay. So it could be various skills, whether it is a general social skills, or whether it is professional skills, all can be trained. Okay. So so that is about training. Okay. So behavioral modeling. So basically, this is another exercise that you actually do. What is behavioral modeling? Where you are, this is where Bandura, social learning, and all those stuff would actually come. All the behavior theories that would actually come into picture. What you are actually trying to do, you are modeling a behavior which actually is going to help the individual and or also the organization in the right way. That is what you are actually doing as far as behavioral modeling is concerned. Okay. So there is nothing which is very fancy in this particular section as far as behavioral modeling is concerned. After OB, we should be able to write a lot of social learning related aspects, a lot of behavioral theory related aspects in this particular thing. But so so even OBM talks about all those stuff. The same thing, whatever that is there, is what is this behavioral modeling is. Okay, so it is a training technique designed to improve interpersonal competence and overall behavior. That is what it is all about. Okay. Mentoring. Now we are going into mentoring. Okay. So mentoring is like a trusted friend who is more experienced than you, who is more skillful than you, who is giving you direction at various points of time. This is little different from coaching. Here, it is like a friend, or he is like, he's seeing your progress and helping you to actually progress into the right direction because he is more experienced in it. He has already done that in the career, right? So he is more knowledgeable, hence he is using his knowledge and trying to shape up your knowledge. That is what is mentoring. Okay. So you have a mentor and mentee. Mentor is the one who is mentoring it. Mentee is the one who is actually taking that particular jnana. Okay. It's a process of informal transmission of knowledge where your mentor is transferring the knowledge to you, whatever that he has got. Okay. So it could be various aspects, whether it could be communication, it could be your job, it could be your general knowledge in that particular subjects like skill and whatever it is, it could be various aspects. But he is like transferring the knowledge that he has got in a systematic way into you. Okay, progressively. It's not like he calls you one day and give all the yeah. It is like it happens over the period of time. Right. So that's how it is. Okay, so in the mentorship, there are various aspects. Accompanying, what it means is he is sitting along with you while you are learning. This is one way of mentoring it. Okay, sowing. Okay, so he is just seeding you with the ideas whenever it is required, right? Whenever he feels that you are ready to take it, he is actually sowing you the ideas, right? Catalyzing. He is actually accelerating your learning. He is trying to actually give the direction so that you actually learn things in much more faster way. Okay, showing, he is demonstrating things in a, in the right way. So he is showing and telling you so that you understand it in a better way, right? Harvesting, he understands what you already have, so he is helping you to see how you can take those particular learnings and use it. Okay, so it is like he knows what is the talent you have, so he is just trying to actually understand and make you understand that this is what you have and what you can do with it. Okay, so mentoring relationship. Okay, so the mentoring relationship, so this is not a type of thing, it is a separate section altogether. So mentoring relationship is, there are two types of relationship. One could be a formal way of mentoring and the other is informal way of mentoring. Okay, so in business scenarios it would be more formal, so you would be allocated with the mentor. Okay, and you will have those particular orientation sessions with him. Okay, and the even goals on what he is supposed to mentor is also something which is fixed. There are schedules, there are trainings, there are evaluations around these particular mentoring related aspects. So that is all formal way of doing it. Okay, the informal way is more happens with no framework. Typically happens outside the organization. Even within organization there could be, but it is more of a friendly or rather a relationship that would actually fostered informally. So there is no defined framework for it. Okay, there is another which is called as a mosaic mentoring. Okay, see, it is based on the concept where almost everyone can perform one or the other function well for someone else. Basically, you are trying to help somebody else in certain things, and someone else is helping you on some other things. Okay, it is like a mosaic mentoring that happens. Okay, so new hire mentorship. So this generally happens when you hire a new one, you actually assign a particular mentor, and he will make sure that you are inducted into the system. So he will tell which systems you need to actually, deal with, how to deal with your skills, where to learn, etc., etc. So this is like generally happens when there is a new hire or a new team member into your team. Okay, high potential mentorship. So you recognize employees who does you think as somebody who is having a very high potential. So you actually think that they are the future leaders. So now you assign a mentor so that he can help you to actually go towards that particular aim. So he could actually, he could mentor on various aspects, but the concept is more about you recognizing the high potential people and assigning the mentors so that you can accelerate their particular progress. Okay. So that is about high potential mentorship. So now the last one here is motivation. Okay. So I think motivation we studied a lot as far as OB is concerned. This is only very small piece of whatever that we studied during whatever the motivation related OB concepts. But the concepts are same here, same concepts. Okay, but in a very, very concise way, in a shorter way. Okay, so we'll go through them anyway. So some of the basic principles. Okay, so motivating employees starts with motivating ourselves. So generally, these are basic principles. If you have to actually motivate somebody, you should be motivated to do that. So generally, enthusiasm is contagious. It is one of the principles which was not talked about in the other OB, but anyway, this is very common principle, right? So always work to align goals of the organization with goals of the employees, or the motivation direction is always towards the goals, right? If these goals are aligned, basically employee goal and organization goal, they will feel motivated. So we learned in various theories. Support the employee, have good intentions towards him, have good culture towards him. Okay, so these are all something which is going to keep them motivated. Okay, these are some of the basic principles. Now you need to provide a nurturing environment. You need to have an open environment so that people remain motivated, right? You need to you need to encourage personal growth. You need to actually make sure that their personal aspects are taken care of. You need to empower them. Okay, so basically you need to give sufficient power. This is all something that you need to give incentives, you need to give responsibility. Okay, so all these things are something which is to be there. Okay, and consider the a top down method. So it's like so up so it starts being proactive and implementing methods towards motivating the employees. It is important to remember that motivation is top down. Okay, so the above employee would actually can actually give that particular energy all the way down. Okay, so that's how the motivation really works. You need to provide a pleasant work environment. You need to have an interesting work. You should really listen to the employees and their concerns, take them seriously. Okay, you need to share the business success. You need to have a job security. You need to give promotion and growth. You need to give competitive salaries. This is all something which is required as far as motivation is concerned. All these are general phenomena itself. There is nothing which is fancy about this particular section. This completes unit 4, block 4.